Hey guys, it's Matt here, and in this video, we'll be going over if the Xbox 360e is still a good console to buy in 2022. The Xbox 360e, the last model of the Xbox 360 that Microsoft ever made. Honestly, this is my favorite model of the Xbox 360, because at first, when Microsoft released the Xbox 360 in 2005, you had the core models, which suffered the Red Ring of Death. Later on, you had the arcade model and the elite model, but both of those also suffered with the Red Ring of Death, obviously not as often as the core model did, but it still was pretty prone. Later on, after that, you had the Xbox 360S model, which had the touch buttons, which some people were not very fond of, though thankfully this console didn't suffer with as many failures as the previous consoles. And then you have the Xbox 360E, which is the model that I'll be showing here, which has physical buttons and a different build. It was very similar to the Xbox One's design, and it was a lot cheaper than an Xbox One at the time as well. So yeah, in this video we'll be reviewing it and seeing how well it holds up. So finally, let's get this device powered on and to the dashboard. Now, with these Xboxes, they actually have really freaking decent controllers. I love the Xbox 360 controllers just because they're so handy to just keep around. And unfortunately, well, you can't really use these on a PC wirelessly unless I think you have to have like a wireless dongle of some kind, because these don't use Bluetooth like the newer ones do. They're still great for playing these older titles on these consoles. So let's turn it on. So you can see this is what the Xbox 360 dashboard looks like. It's very clean, it's very simple, it looks very nice. I really do like it, and you can see how it very much resembles the Windows 8 kind of start menu. So you can see here, just like scrolling through these lists here, it looks like the tile interface. And if I go to system, blah, 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 like these menus obviously have that same modern design. So the Xbox dashboard did not always look like this. In fact, the Xbox dashboard actually looked like this on the original Xbox 360. This was known as the Blades dashboard, and honestly it looked quite nice, but they thought of the media side of the Xbox 360, which caused the interface to kind of get a whole revamp. It got new media controls in here, so you can see all this stuff in here, which allows you to play music and all that stuff. It's got Windows Media Center. It's got a bunch of stuff that I don't think existed originally. Now, with these consoles, I have the original Xbox 360e revision that had the built-in 4 gigs of storage space, and you can see that right here. It's after formatting, it's 2.9 gigabytes, but yeah, so that's a thing. Now with these Xboxes though, if I can think, with these Xboxes, you can actually pop in an official hard drive, which I have not done, but you can see there is a hard drive shown up here, and that's because there are ways to use like different firmware utilities. I was able to use a tool called HDD Hacker, which allows you to use any kind of drive that is a specific capacity. Thankfully, the drive that I actually had, it was a Western Digital drive, was actually tested and working. So I lucked out there that I didn't have to buy another drive, so I ran the tool, got all the stuff formatted the way it needs to be, and now the hard drive shows up right in here. And that's really good because now I can actually use this Xbox for a lot more, because this now has a lot more space. You can see my games and apps there is 2.2 gigabytes. And if you know from if you saw before how I had 2.9 gigs, once I actually got more games installed on here, this thing quickly ran out of space. And I'd have to delete games or save files in order to gain that space back. Not very happy about, but hey, at least now I have the hard drive in here, so I don't need to worry about that anymore. I do not have a Kinect, otherwise I would be showing it in this video, because that was a whole can of worms in and of itself. But the Kinect was interesting. Glad it was killed though. There. So when it comes to like different media apps and stuff, this Xbox still works a lot of them from what I've seen. Internet Explorer is actually still functional on these Xboxes. However, it's pretty much useless at this point. You can see even trying to go to the Xbox website, it immediately failed. So you can zoom in and out with the triggers. So if we try to go to like Google, you can see it can't even connect to Google. So we have to go to Bing, because that is the only one from what I've seen that actually still works on here, because this thing is seriously useless. And you can see how well that renders. So if we try to do a search here, so let's go to the search bar and actually do a search. Let's just do my YouTube channel, because why not? You can see very broken. Of course, it finds an image first. So right here, if I scroll down, you can see there's my YouTube channel. That is very much out of date. But if I try to go to my YouTube channel here, it will not succeed because this cannot connect to, it used to be able to, but it can't connect to YouTube anymore just because this browser is very archaic and out of date. Which, I mean, that's not really a surprise, to be honest, with how limited this is. But yeah, no surprises there, that just doesn't work. So we can try going to like Reddit. I don't think this is gonna work. No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, you cannot actually hook up a mouse to this, so I have to use a controller to move the pointer around. There we go. Old.reddit.com doesn't work either. Even though this is designed for older web browsers, it just can't connect to it for whatever reason. Maybe there's like some settings I need to change, but it just doesn't, yeah, it just doesn't connect properly. It wouldn't surprise me if I have like a proxy thing going on. I'm just not happy with that, but I don't think I do. You know, that's enough of this. This clearly isn't working. So if you want to do web browsing on the Xbox 360, kind of pointless now. So I would not suggest that you use it for that. Moving right along, we can go to the YouTube app here, which I just passed. And you can see here, the YouTube app. The YouTube app actually does look like the modern YouTube app, and believe it or not, this app still works. You can see here, it's pulling up a bunch of stuff from my recommended, so, you know, that's cool, I guess. And if we try to play a video here, let's just go to one from my channel.
So here we have our first PlayStation 1.
It works. For some reason, I'm missing most of the UI, though. There we go. It's in 480p. I think the highest that lets me go is 720p. Now, obviously, this is just the media elements of the console. We haven't even looked at any of the games yet. So let's do that. Let's go to the main purpose of these devices here, which is for playing games. Now, with these being Xbox 360s, of course there aren't going to be a bunch of newer titles for these devices. So if you're a Forza fan, so let's say you play Forza Horizon 5, well, you can't play that on here. Want to play Forza Horizon 4? Nope, can't do that either. 3? Not a chance. The latest version of that game that actually runs on this console is Forza Horizon 2. Would I suggest that you pay $30 for it? Probably not, but it's still a good game from what I heard. I do want to try it. So that's, if you want to play like newer titles, you just can't. You can play older versions of those titles, but you can't play any newer ones. There are some games that do exist that still are around and get updates on newer consoles, like Minecraft, for instance. You can see I have the console version of this here. And I'll pop this in, and some of you, and probably most of you already know what's going to happen when I do this. You can see all of the old logos that are still present, even though I am running the latest version of the game that is supported on here, which is version 1.13, technically. It's the updated Aquatic Edition. It's the last version of Minecraft that actually runs on 360. So that's going to be a common trend with most games that still exist today that are getting updates, is that these consoles can't run the latest versions, and that's probably a surprise to nobody. So we actually go in here and play the game, which I think my saves are on my hard drive. Yes, they are. my saves, the one that's in here, because I named it weirdly. And we are in. You can see here, the game actually runs very smoothly. It's obviously the older version, so you can see for people who actually play a more modern version of this game, you might notice the textures are older. Quite a bit older, actually. You can see that very well here. But otherwise, it works fine. You can see it's very smooth. It's very nice to control. I can open up my inventory. Might as well. Oh wait, inventory and crafting are separate. But you can see everything is working. And if it looks like I'm not navigating the menus very well, it's because I can barely see half the screen. So yeah, this game actually works very well. We've got one more game to try, and that is Forza Horizon 2. That is the last version of the game that will run on here, as I mentioned earlier in the video. So if we go to my games here, we should actually be able to open this up. Here we are. So yeah, this game runs pretty decently, actually. It is the last version that I said, or like I said, this is the last version of the game that released on Xbox 360, unfortunately. It'd be really cool if they had newer versions, but nope, 2 is the best version that you can get on here. But yeah, this game's actually pretty decent. Obviously it's older, but it's honestly quite nice to play. So yeah, that's about it for this video. These Xbox 360s, I'd say if you still have one, maybe get it out and play some of your older games, because maybe you can get some fun back out of it. I'd say if you have some older titles that you'd want to play, then maybe you could pick one of these up. I don't really know how expensive they go for. I'd imagine probably like $100, if not a little less than that. Honestly, if you're gonna go get an older console, just get like an Xbox One or something. Unless you have specific 360 games that are not compatible with newer Xboxes, then maybe I'd say get a 360. But I wouldn't get one of these unless you could find one for really cheap. I think at this point, they're long since obsolete for buying or playing newer games because, of course, they're not releasing newer games for these anymore. But if you want to go back and play older games, there's your option here. But otherwise, don't buy one in 2022. So yeah, that's about it for this video. If you liked it, then hit the like button and get subscribed if you like the content that you see on this channel. Anyways, tell me in the comments if you actually own one of these consoles and if you have any fond memories as a kid, or as a younger adult, I guess you could say. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys all later. Bye.